I'm Malcolm. Welcome to edition 1941 of the Enfield Talking newspaper. With me on the reading team for Thursday, 13th of February 2014 are Yvonne, Audrey, Keith, with Dave on the controls. And the items we'll be reading are the copyright of our local newspapers, the Enfield Gazette and Advertiser and the Enfield Independent. This week's local stories include Leaked Letter Reveals True State of A&E, Schools are scoring high on National Results Board, Cat Hill campaigners stand firm, and councillor who discovered confidential file is wrapped for revealing contents. But before we go to the papers, we've got one or two reminders and special announcements. Yvonne, you've got something about the Edmonton 100.
The Edmonton 100 Historical Society will be hosting a joint talk with the Edmonton branch of the Enfield Society at 7:30 on Friday the 21st of February at All Saints Church Hall, Edmonton, N9 9PB. Amy Fellis will talk on Tributaries of the Lee, the work of Thames 2. For more information, please telephone the Society on 020 8379 2839.
Audrey, can you tell us about Enfield Voluntary Forum?
Yes, I think so. Enfield Voluntary Forum will meet on Monday the 3rd of March 2014 at the Park Avenue Resource Centre, Bushel Park at 7 p.m. until 9 p.m. There will be a speaker and her name is Lucy and the subject is Health Watch, which we'll be hearing more about in the following items.
Okay, Keith, you've got something about Enfield Vision, I think.
Yes. Don't forget that Enfield Vision and Enfield Association for the Blind will hold their monthly drop-in on Thursday the 20th of February at the Park Avenue Disability Centre from 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m.
Okay, I've got something from Michelle Malwa, who's an administrative officer with something called Health Watch Enfield. Health Watch Enfield, she says, wants to improve the quality of care and health services for all. But by using information about the care you've received, those involved in providing care and health services can see how well they're doing and where improvements need to be made. NHS organisations share information about the care you receive with those who plan health and social care services, as well as with approved researchers and organisations outside the NHS, if this will benefit patient care. As a patient, you may receive care and treatment from a number of places, such as your GP practice, hospitals and community services. But by bringing this information together from all the different places, we can compare the care provided in one area with the care provided in another, so we can see what worked best. Michelle says we'll use information such as your postcode and NHS number to link your records from these different places. Records are linked in a secure system so your identity is protected. Details that could identify you personally will be removed before your information is made available to others, such as those planning NHS services and approved researchers. They sometimes release confidential information to approved researchers if this is allowed by law and meets the strict rules that are in place to protect your privacy. You can get a large print version of this leaflet or a braille copy by calling 0300, that's 0300 456 3521. That's 0300 456 3521, or text phone 0208 742 8620. That's 0208 742 8620 for text phone. The important thing is that if you want to opt out of this information share, you can contact your GP and you're absolutely free to do so. And finally on our announcements, I'm sure you know by now that you have a listener's representative, Diane de Jersey, who will be happy to help you with any problems or concerns you have about your talking newspaper. And you can call Diane on 020 8805 6578. That's 020 8805 6578 for Diane de Jersey. And now here's Yvonne with the first news item.
Leaked letter reveals true state of A&E. A packed A&E department was forced to turn away ambulances and declare a state of emergency just weeks after the controversial closure of a nearby casualty ward. NHS bosses had insisted that Barnet Hospital was well prepared to cope with the influx of patients following the cost-cutting closure of Chase Farm's own A&E department on December the 9th, which was replaced by a 12-hour urgent care centre in Barnet and North Middlesex. But less than 7 weeks later, it was left crippled by the huge number of walk-in patients and ambulance arrivals. At the height of the crisis on Friday, January the 31st, ambulances were queuing outside the hospital, and by 2:30 p.m, 19 had been left unable to transfer their patients because of the drastic bed shortage. Internally, a further 9 patients could not be moved from their acute admissions unit ward to the emergency department, which was forced to seek help from medical departments across the region, including the Royal Free and Whittington hospitals. A leaked letter sent to medical departments across East and North Hertfordshire urged GPs to avoid referring their patients for hospital treatment until as late as Tuesday to allow the hospital staff to cope with the backlog. The incident, described by an NHS spokesman, was described as extremely rare, has sparked outrage among politicians and campaigners who say they have warned for years about closing Enfield's biggest A&E department. Kate Wilkinson, founder of the Save Chase Farm campaigning group, said, "It's putting lives at risk. This has become a very dangerous situation where there are not sufficient frontline services to deal with the demand. There needs to be some serious and honest discussions with the decision makers now, who need to admit there is a lack of services." Nick Dubois, Conservative MP for Enfield North, said, "It is yet another example of what we warned would happen as a result of putting too much pressure on Barnet and North Middlesex. We were told repeatedly that they would be able to cope, but this shows that they clearly cannot." Barnet Hospital declared an internal emergency and received support from local hospitals, and non-urgent ambulances were diverted on January the 31st. The quality of care and safety of our patients is paramount. Consultants and senior managers were on site throughout to ensure the Trust responded to this increase in activity.
Enfield has emerged as one of the fattest boroughs in London. Weighing in well above the national average, the borough has been named the 5th fattest in the capital, according to figures from National Health England. The data collected between January 2012 and January 2013 revealed that 64% of Enfield residents tested were obese, 7% higher than the London average of 57%. The borough was only exceeded by Hillingdon, where 64% of people were classed as obese, Bexley 64%, Bromley 65%, and Greenwich 64%. By contrast, Kensington and Chelsea was London's fittest borough, with 46% of residents classified as obese. Enfield's Borough Council took over health responsibilities for the borough from the National Health Service on April 1st, 2013. Theodora Kayaraku, winner of the Weight Watchers Leader of the Year 2013 award, has helped people in Palmer's Green shed more than 300 stone, and said, "This is more than just an Enfield issue." She said, "Obesity has been all over the news, and these recent statistics further highlight how important it is that we will all do something about our weight and health. Research has shown that even small reductions in weight, for example, losing just 5% or 10% of your body weight, can significantly decrease the risk of developing chronic diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, and even some cancers."
Campaigners blockading the entrance of the former university campus are furious that developers are completely ignoring their protest. In a demonstration of pure people power, environmental campaigners stopped 2 lorries in their tracks on Monday morning by forming a human barrier in front of the entrance to the old Middlesex University campus in Cat Hill, Cockfosters. Wildlife has thrived on the site since the Institute moved out of the campus 4 years ago, and protesters were outraged when it emerged last week that developers L&Q Housing was planning to begin work on the 231 homes planned there before the end of the hibernation period for a protected species of newt. People Power may have won the battle on Monday, but yesterday the protesters were unable to stop a bulldozer from getting onto the site at 6:40 a.m. And a scheduled meeting between Diane Murphy, chairwoman of the Barnet branch of the London Wildlife Trust, and L&Q ecologist was postponed indefinitely. Despite these setbacks, Ms. Murphy is still confident of victory. She said, "It appears that there are aspects of the conditions that Natural England set down that haven't been met, and we're in close communication with the enforcement team at Natural England." Standing in the drizzle beside Ms. Murphy, chairwoman of the campaign for Cat Hill, Kim Coleman, added, "They're being awkward, but that's all right because we can be awkward too." Chipping Barnet MP Teresa Villiers has added her voice to the clamour, but rather than targeting L&Q, the Conservative member is calling on Enfield Council to clamp down on any breaches. She said they should ensure that all activity on the site stops unless the conditions contained in L&Q's planning permission have been fully met. But a council spokesman said Natural England will monitor compliance with the licence, and the council has made them aware of residents' concerns. A spokeswoman from L&Q added, L&Q and contractors Quadrant Construction were on site yesterday to carry out preparatory work in accordance with their licensing agreements. This work will see us erect special fencing to protect the established newt habitats, as well as carrying out planned tree management and pruning works.
A councillor who blew the whistle on confidential data found lying in the middle of the former Southgate Town Hall has been punished for revealing the extent of the security breach. Southgate Green Ward councillor Henry Lamprecht was with Enfield Southgate MP David Burrows in October 2012 when the pair came across a raft of official documents left strewn in the former debating chamber of the town hall. One particular document caught their attention, as the name of 8-year-old Victoria Klimbe was written on it. The youngster was murdered by her great-aunt and her boyfriend in Tottenham in 2000. The document detailed some aspects of the child's care when Enfield Social Services were briefly involved in the case. However, despite the fact that the pair removed the documents from the building, which was the council's archive until 2009, to a secure location, a complaint was made against Mr. Lamprecht over the fact that too much information about specific Enfield officers was contained in documents Mr. Burrows was photographed holding by the Advertiser. This week, Mr. Lamprecht told this newspaper that after the stash was discovered, there was an initial investigation into the matter, but that gradually it descended into a blame game. To his utter shock, he then received a letter from the authority telling him that a complaint had been made against him by a council officer and he was facing a standards board hearing. "I find it very strange," said Mr. Lamprecht, "and I don't know what their agenda is. Really, they're behaving like a police state. This is the sort of stuff left lying around. Nobody challenged us when we went in. There were contractors all over the place, and when people were filming in there, anyone at all, extras, actors, directors, could have casually come across this stuff." However, despite Mr. Lamprecht's written submission to the Standards Board, which stressed that he only told the Advertiser about the find because it was in the public interest to expose the mistake, the Council ruled that he had breached paragraph 12 of the Council's Member Code of Conduct. The regulation states that a councillor must not disclose information given to them in confidence or acquired by them that you believe is of a confidential nature. As he had not initially cooperated with the investigation, Mr. Lamprecht believes he was being made a scapegoat for the council's failings. He was also rapped on the knuckles. The councillor was told his punishment would be a press release being sent to local newspapers, followed by Malcolm reading it out to the listeners of Enfield Talking newspaper with a horrified expression on his face.
Outrageous waste removal costs. Enfield's Labour Council is proposing to put up charges for bulky waste items to be collected from households as part of the 2014/15 budget. The proposed increase for the first collection is 4 times the rate of inflation. The entire charge is outrageous, let alone a price hike. The previous Conservative administration did not charge for the collection of bulky waste items, such as microwaves and televisions from homes, because it was known that if you charge, people will dump them instead. The increase will only make fly tipping more attractive. This council clearly does not take fly tipping seriously if it is hiking up the price of the bulky waste collection services. This was an article by Councillor Joanne Laban, Shadow Cabinet Minister for the Environment, Conservative Town Ward, Enfield Borough Council.
Parents' prayers could be answered after a council pledge that there will definitely be 60 extra primary school places in the borough this September. Powerful lobby group, the South West Enfield Action Team, has announced that after a series of discussions with Enfield Council, there is now a cast iron guarantee in place that there will be a 2-form entry school available for Southgate and Winchmore Hill children in 7 months' time. Gonal Daniels, a chairwoman of Sweat, is thrilled that finally parents will have the option of sending their child to a good school nearby rather than be forced to send them by bus to the other end of the borough. I am so delighted, she said. I feel like our campaign has been successful and is actually getting somewhere. Enfield Council has confirmed that there will be added places for 60 primary school children starting school this September. But so far it will not say which school will be expanded to make room for the new pupils. Local authorities have been banned from setting up brand new schools. A spokesman admitted that officers were in the final negotiations and stages of confirming where the 2 new forms of entry will be. He added, in discussion with the Sweat campaign group, the council acknowledged the need to provide an extra 60 primary pupil places in the southwest of the borough. The council has considered projects to achieve this, and the most viable is in the final stages of development. The new places are in addition to Barnett's Ashmole Academy announcement last year that it is seeking approval to open its own primary school in Southgate, available to pupils in 2015.
An Enfield family are free to travel again after a charity raised money to fit a special car seat for their disabled son. Kieran Saunders, 4 of Weir Hall Avenue in Edmonton, suffered a seizure when he was 6 months old and was diagnosed with a neurological condition that affects his brain and nervous system. Unable to sit without his mother, Kirsty, Kieran needs a car seat costing £1,770 to keep him safe during journeys. Without the seat, he could not travel to see friends or relatives or go on family days out. National children's charity Caldwell Children provided the money for a seat which was delivered to the family last week, to the delight of Miss Saunders. She said, "We couldn't do anything without this seat as it wasn't safe for Kieran. It is going to make such a difference to us. Caring for him has been hard. He depends on me for everything. But now we have this seat, it means we can do so much more together." Miss Saunders also said that she had already taken Kieran to London to a Chinese festival and celebrated Chinese New Year. Trudy Beswick, CEO of Caldwell Children, said, "Having a car seat can make a huge difference to the well-being of a family. Car seats are vital pieces of equipment as they ensure the safety of a disabled child whilst travelling. It is essential that we get the money we need to provide equipment like this to children like Kieran.
An MP has issued a rallying cry in Parliament calling for a radical overhaul of how multi-million-pound contracts are awarded to train companies. Nick Dubois, whose Enfield North constituency includes 3 railway stations served by First Capital Connect, was the driving force behind the Westminster Hall debate, during which he launched a blistering attack on the company's performance since August last year. The Conservative made an impassioned speech in front of a raft of MPs, including Robert Goodwill, Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Transport. A commuter from my constituency will pay £1,560 annually for the privilege, said Mr Dubois. It's interesting to note that on every pound spent by the fare-paying passengers, FCC sees a net return of 3%. That would not be unreasonable if service standards were maintained at the highest level. Fares have increased substantially, but customers are not benefiting from real choice. He demanded commuter satisfaction be taken into consideration when decisions are being made as to who should run the service. Tory colleague David Burrows, who also has FCC stations in his Enfield Southgate constituency, told the debate that in the 3 months leading up to Christmas, the company had not met punctuality targets on 83% of occasions. He added, "I'm not sure whether any of my constituents are present, but if any of them had tried to attend this debate, they would have struggled to get here on time. They would have been greeted by the news that there were delays of between 14 and 18 minutes. They would have heard not only about delays, but that the train was no longer going to call at Enfield Chase, Grange Park, Winchmore Hill, Palmer's Green and Bowes Park, owing to an earlier broken-down train. Sadly, that is typical." However, Mr Goodwill gave a lukewarm response, saying there are signs of improvement, notwithstanding the recent severe weather problems, and we will watch the situation closely to ensure that those improvements are built into the existing franchise and the next. He added that when the government considers future bids for the franchise, the points made in the debate will be at the forefront of their mind. A representative of FCC attended the debate, and a spokesman told the Advertiser, "We share the frustration of people in Enfield. Signalling and power failures, compounded by weather problems, account for the vast majority of delays for trains that travel through Enfield. Our focus now is working with Network Rail to help address this so that we can run the train services that our passengers expect and deserve."
Councillor John Kay's accusation that the current Labour administration has one of the worst records in London when it comes to supporting people with visual impairment would be sad if true. However, Councillor Kay is correct up to a point. In its recent survey of Joint Strategic Needs Assessment, the JSNA, the Royal National Institute of the Blind had, in the case of Enfield, mistakenly used the JSNA produced by the previous Conservative administration, and it is an administration that Councillor Kay was a member of. The result was to place Enfield among the 56% of London councils who provided little or no information in their JSNAs of the needs of residents with actual or potential sight loss or visual impairment. The RNIB reassessed Enfield's position when made aware of the JNSA published in July 2013 by the current Labour administration. I'd like to reassure residents that not only is the RNIB happy with the excellent way Enfield are now treating sight loss as an important issue, they are also looking forward to working with Enfield in the future. This was submitted by Councillor Don McGowan, Cabinet Health and Adult Services, Chairman of Enfield Health and Wellbeing Board of the Labour Turkey Street Ward, Enfield Borough Council.
And so, as we've come to the end of side 1, please stop your machine, take out the cassette, turn it over, and start side 2.